Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to To Css Tech. This is an introduction to CSS fundamentals by Duzaho Vincent. A quick reminder, please. Note, this is a continuation of the HTML web development course that I have started in my previous videos. So I will advise you to go check on those videos and so that you will learn and understand what we are going further for. Now, the CSS is much more free because you can do same styling in many ways. Unlike HTML, where a specific way to do things is there's a specific way to do things in HTML, but on CSS is free. There are many other methods or ways in which you can derive to the same answer of styling. So therefore, please stay by and don't go away. Another note to remember is this course is a guide to CSS syntax. Please, there will be no complexity about flashbox or any animations. That will be covered in another section of this channel. But for now, we are going to look at the basic CSS syntax and work towards that. This section will cover only the most important part of CSS for web development. My web development journey started around last 2 weeks. I have over 6 to 7 videos on that. I have a dream of writing my own. Developing my own websites, and I'm working towards that. I decided to share this video and my learning process. Please, this video will not only stop after the CSS course for web development. I will continue with JavaScript and see how I can dwell and add more complexity to my website as well. I will also be interested. I'm also interested on talking about other programming language like R, Python, maybe Julia, and the rest. But for now, let's go about with CSS first. Thank you. So let's begin. What is CSS? CSS stands for Cascaded Styling Sheet. Mind you, it is not a programming language, but a styling language used for website design and styling. This is a language that is used to style and lay out HTML content on a web page. While HTML defines the structure, CSS controls the appearance. So therefore, this is like a kind of a further, or let me say a continuation of my web development journey. So therefore, I will go and learn more about CSS in the subsequent videos. So let's go on to key functions of CSS. Number one function we have is styling text. On the styling text, we have font sizes, we have colors, we have line weight, we have spacing, and etc. So, for example, if we have a paragraph and we are trying to see a color blue and font size 16 pixel. Okay, so this is the example of our styling text, which I've talked about. Styling text has to do with the fonts, the font sizes, the colors, the length, and the spacing as well. All are under the one of the key functions of CSS. So another function of CSS is layout and positioning. Layout and positioning controls where elements appear, e.g. the margin, padding, position, flexbox, or grid. On my subsequent videos, I will talk about margin. I will also talk about padding and positioning. This has an example of margin equals to 20 pixel, padding equals to 10 pixel, and display is I want it to display on the flex display mode. So don't worry if this you don't understand yet. On my subsequent videos, I will explain and I will include it on a written code. Next, I have is next function of a CSS is the color and background. Color is a set images colors, set background images, colors, gradient, and more. For example, when you have a body element and you want to make the background color to be number F0, F0, F0. All this I'll explain in my subsequent videos as well. So don't worry if the words or my figures or my pronunciation is a bit cumbersome. Next I have is the fourth function for CSS are the borders and effects. Borders are effects. They add borders, they add shadows, they add transition, and also animation. Sorry, as I've said further, on this video, I will not talk about animations and flexbox. I will get a separate video and talk about that. That will be after my web development journey. So let's go further with the tools needed for our CSS. So the tools are just like the HTML. We will need only two gadgets. We will need a text editor and a browser. On my subsequent videos, I have installed and downloaded Sublime Text, which I will be using further for the for my CSS code as well. So Sublime Text was installed on our HTML development video. You can look that at my first video on the CSS development. I mean on the HTML development, web development, and you get how I downloaded and installed Sublime Text. We'll also use Google Chrome web browser. You can also use other web browsers like Mozilla or Safari if you are using an Apple iOS. Method of adding a CSS file. We have three major ways of method of adding a CSS file in a HTML file. Number one method is the inline CSS method. This is the addition of style attribute directly to the HTML element. That is to say, we are mixing the presentation with the styling, which is within the HTML tag. This is not it's really making it too local and too waxy. For example, we can decide to add a style attribute for on a head that you can see you have a head one a h1 element as the header and the style attribute added is the color red. So we can see this to hello. it will change this color yellow to red. Please, this is not a recommended method because it is too taxy, and it will make your work too cumbersome. So I will not recommend that as well. Uh, the next one we have here is the internal CSS. This is using the style tag at the head attribute with a single HTML file. Uh, for example, we have example here is you are using the style attribute first before the header, and you can see how the color red is installed on it. This is also not a recommended method for adding a CSS file. The last one is the external CSS. This is linking an external .css extension to the HTML file. Example of that is the external.css linked to a .css file is the link attribute, uh, giving it the style sheet of an href of styles.css. This is the name of the file. The name of the file here is styles.css. This is the recommended method for adding a CSS file to a HTML file. This is because you can decide to use this same CSS code to 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 run or to forward to run on another program. So this is the recommended method for that as well. Now let's see, why do we use CSS? Well, we use CSS so that we can separate the content from the design. Definitely, I said the content is the HTML, that means, and the design is the CSS. So therefore, we are using the CSS so that we can what? We can separate the HTML from the CSS. The second reason why we use CSS is it makes your site more responsive and virtual and visually appealing. Definitely, without CSS, only the HTML website is so not attractive at all. So it makes adding a CSS makes it so unique and so appealing. Okay, so the next, it allows you to style multiple pages from one style sheet. Definitely with CSS, you can be able to style multiple pages using only a one style sheet, using the the uh, the external CSS addition that I've talked about. Now let's talk about key functions of CSS. Number one function of CSS is styling text. For styling text, we have font size, colors, line height, spacing, etc. You can see an example if you have a paragraph attribute. You can add your color as blue, and the font size is 16 pixel. This is 16 pixel is the default font size for our HTML documents. I will talk and elaborate about that in my next video. The second key function of CSS is to layout and positioning. Layout positioning controls where the elements appear, e.g. the margin, the padding, the position, the plug box, and the grip. So in a div attribute, in a div element, we can have a margin of 20 pixel, padding of 10 pixel, and display of flex. Another third example of the basic function of CSS is color and background. This sets a background images, colors, gradient, and more on our body or other headings. You can see the background color here is F F F naught F naught F naught. So positioning in CSS. Let's go to positioning in CSS. The position properly defines how an element is positioned in the document flow. In the document flow values. There are different types of positionings. We have one, the static position, which is by default. That is the position that comes by default on a CSS folder. Now, is a normal flow, no position is appeared. So if no position is applied, the position for a CSS file is always at static. The second position is relative. Relative moves an element relative to its original position. For example, we have the dot box, the box element. Under that, we are going to have the position as relative, and top 10 and left 20 pixels. So all these are the positions that our elements or our documents can have. Of our positioning is the absolute positioning. The absolute position relative to the nearest position, that is the absolute position relative to the nearest position, that is non-static or a static position. We can see here the position. All this I will elaborate that on my subsequent videos as well. So the next position is the fixed position. Fixed position stays fixed relative to the viewpoint. That is, it does not move on scroll. In the fixed position, once you make an element on a fixed position, for example, in the navigation bar, is always used for the navigation bar, and when the position is fixed, you can see, no matter how you move the page, it will still remain constant. It will not change. So at that, the position is set to as a fix. So on a navigation bar, there's .nav bar. We have position fix, and the top is equals to 0, and the width is 100%. That I will explain. So the next position is the initial. This sets the property to its default function or to its default value. That is when you set your position as initial. So the next one is the inherit. This inherits whatever the property of the parent element is. So wherever the property of the element is, it definitely inherits the property as well. Please stay tuned to To Css Tech, and I promise you on this journey will achieve more and be great in web design and programming language class. Thank you.